History, geography, coastlines, blue, gold. It is from here that we are transported tonight into the world of Robyn Denny's imagination. The artist's inspiration stems from a deep fascination with the sea. This exhibition, Eastcoast Gold, is an exploration of the changeability of geography. Our geography, how we place ourselves in it in order to maintain a sense of belonging and to determine how history intersects with our own, the inevitable interwovenness of culture, symbolism, and mythology. Eastcoast Gold is a logical progression from her former body of work, Indigo, A Passage to Healing. The Indigo work, comprising of painting, installation, and a performance piece by Mamela Nyamza, attempts to reconcile the history of indigo pigment along the West African coastline and the evident polarities of its symbolism as both blood and healing. Denny explains indigo as uncovering the historical journey which simultaneously moved and haunted her. The extremes of beauty and pain held in a single pigment, indigo, the color that seduced the ancient world, has captivated her for years. The dichotomy of royalty and oppression. A piece of indigo cloth was traded for a slave life in colonized Africa. Denny focused on the Dahomey warrior, the Amazon women from sub-Saharan West Africa, and the insatiable appetite for the dye from the Dutch. And a Dutch female figure from the Golden Age looms as her alter ego in numerous and diverse ways. Denny has ground and liquefied the processed leaves of the Indigofera tinctoria plant, recalling its historical origins. The body of works, in conjunction with the performance piece of Mamela Nyamza, initiates a conversation and thought process in the hopes of nearing what might resemble healing.
To remind us who we are in the world. We are whom we are because of our connectedness to other hemispheres, other civilizations. We cannot isolate ourselves. This is what Robyn Denny is profoundly at odds with. She is concerned by the dismissal of Africa's provenance in the history of the world. And what Robyn Denny has been trying to do by examining two coastlines, the west coast and the east coast of Africa, is show just how connected Africa is to the rest of world history. In terms of the paintings themselves, what's intriguing here is that Robyn Denny is not trying to make history paintings. What she's trying to do allegorically is find ways in which we can trigger memories of the past and understandings of the present and intuitions of the future. So the work in many ways is designed to trigger apprehension rather than to determine or over-determine apprehension on the part of the viewer or consumer of the work. What she's trying to do, she's trying to energize the past in the present moment and make us feel that past in the present moment. And in that moment, anticipate what our future can be.
Denny continues her African trajectory down the west coast to Cape Point, where the artist now resides, up to the Indian Ocean. Eastcoast Gold traces the evolution of cultural identity and how it is of self and of place, relational and inventive, and again explores the shoreline, a terrain that has captured Denny's artistic and fantastical vision throughout this extended body of work. Denny's layered historical and symbolic artworks of the West and East Coast respectively create a strong sense that history and geography are intrinsically interconnected and are the essential substrate for cultural and gendered identity. The medium itself embodies this geographic and material trajectory as she uses gold leaf, Johannesburg gold mine dump sand, and gold metallic powder. This exhibition reveals to us the artist's understanding of the undeniable truth that eras, decades, and times have been hybridized, merged, fused. This has resulted in a delectable marriage of cultures and identities that stem not just from Africa alone, as Denny deeply understands, but from the connectedness of geographies, particularly land and sea. Denny is interested in cruelty and compassion, beauty and violence, which never seem far apart. She asks the question in this modern world of technology, is it old-fashioned to work on canvas? Is she seeking a tangible reality, something organic and tactile in an increasingly digital world? She comes to the conclusion that while we still have flesh, blood, and consciousness, we will continue to play out levels of compassion and cruelty until our last breath. In the Eastcoast series, Denny casts her mind and meditations back to a peaceable time of Indian Ocean trade exchange between African, Arabic, Indian, and Chinese, and the time where this equilibrium was shaken by the warring Portuguese. What has emerged in these artworks is an expression of this violent colonial catastrophe in a clear representation of the aforementioned dichotomy of destruction and creation. Denny uses the sea as a symbol of our turbulent minds and injurious human nature. We need to learn to subdue the waves of our ruinous minds before we can achieve what Ashraf Jamal refers to as the others of ourselves. In Denny's vast canvas, The Map, we realize the artist's relationship with symbols and mythology. Our eye casts about looking for a central point, yet is unable to find one. We see the rook on the bottom right corner plucking elephants with its prehensile talons. More central in the canvas, we discover a depiction of the slave trade, oppressed men with elephant tusks. The map spans across Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe with a delicious sense of interconnectedness.
I am painting myself into relationship with my four protagonists. I'm asking the generous and visionary King Musa I of Mali about his library in Timbuktu and how he single-handedly changed the price of gold on his pilgrimage towards the East Coast and onwards to Mecca. I am inhaling the scent of the cinnamon peeler's wife and imagining the atrocities she saw in front of her. I'm curious about the deeply introspective Cape Malaysian and what she bore witness to. And I yearn to be the slipstream at the wings of the Golden Sphinx as she lifts herself above the getting and spending of the African East Coast. I have spent more than 1,000 hours with these figures, and by them am transformed.
Robyn's voice as an artist resounds with the poetry of Africa. In this case, it's Eastcoast, which was responsible not only for trade, but also for the stories that were exchanged, the flow of ideas, the cultures that were merged and forever redesigned and transformed.